Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for visiting the YouTube channel for bestbiblecommentaries.com. In this video, I'm going to show you 12 new releases. 2 of them are Bible commentaries, and 10 of them are in areas like biblical studies, theology, and Christian history. There's some well-known authors in this video that I'll mention in just a second, like G.K. Beale's latest release, John Piper's latest release, and John MacArthur's latest release. Before I get into it, I invite you to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to, and feel free to leave a comment or ask a question down below if you want to. All right, the first one is John MacArthur's commentary on Zechariah. So this book has been a little bit of a mystery to me the last few months as I've tried to figure out more about it. Someone in the comment section of one of my videos alerted me to it, and so I went on a hunt to try and find out more about it, and it was not available on Amazon. It was not available on Christian Books, so I had to contact the publisher directly, and the publisher is the Master's Books, the Master's Press, which is the publishing arm of John MacArthur's ministry. So not the usual publisher, in other words, which would explain why it didn't kind of land on my radar when it came out. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is. So it's smaller than usual. So some of you know that John MacArthur wrote a commentary on every book of the New Testament, and those are nice big hardback books. This is a smaller paperback, which is fine. It's just a little different. It is called the MacArthur Old Testament Commentary Series, and the author name on the front is John MacArthur. But I noticed a few pages in, it says edited by John MacArthur. And there's no other names on the chapters. So my best guess, and go ahead and let me know if you know, let me know in the comment section, but my best guess is that these are MacArthur sermons that he edited for publication in a book. I can't find any kind of explanation to that effect, but I think that's what it is. So, and as usual, it's an Old Testament prophet, and there's not a lot of Zechariah commentaries that are written from a premillennial perspective, but now there's another one because that's what MacArthur's perspective is when he writes on, or he preaches and writes on Zechariah. So, for your consideration. Next up is the Job volume in the Evangelical Biblical Theology Commentary series, Job, by Webb. Webb has written the Judges volume in the NICOT series, and he wrote Isaiah. Is it Bible Speaks Today? I can't quite remember, but I think he has an Isaiah commentary as well. And this series continues to be well reviewed. That it's designed for pastors, but it's not technical, so probably anybody can benefit from it. So the Job volume is now out. Came out a couple months ago, if I remember correctly. G.K. Beale's latest release is out. It's called Union with the Resurrected Christ. The subtitle is Eschatological New Creation and New Testament Biblical Theology. So G.K. Beale is a very well-reviewed Bible commentator, and his books on biblical studies and theology have also been very well-reviewed. If you've never read him before, his works are not introductory, I would say. So if you're not used to this level of biblical studies reading, then it might take you a lot longer to work your way through these chapters. That work could be very beneficial, but you might want to start with something else if you're not used to this kind of reading. So there's 2 parts in this book. The first part, which is only about 3 chapters long, is about the resurrection of Christ in the New Testament. I'm paraphrasing here. It's about the resurrection of Christ in the New Testament. And then the bulk of the book, I'd say like 70% of it or so, is how that relates to the believer, how Christ's resurrection relates to the believer and the benefits for the believer and so on. So, union with the resurrected Christ. Next up is John Piper's latest release called All That Jesus Commanded. Piper's last book was on the Second Coming, if I remember correctly, and now he's come out with this book. Subtitle is The Christian Life According to the Gospels. So he goes through all of Jesus' teaching in the Gospels and synthesizes them in this book. And as usual, since he was a pastor and a preacher for so many years, the explanations read like expositions, like sermons, and there's a lot of devotional reflection and theological insight and application, like in Piper's other books. So this is called All That Jesus Commanded. Next up is Reformation as Renewal by Matthew Barrett, who is a theology professor at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. The subtitle is Retrieving the One Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. This book is a little under 1,000 pages in length, and as the title indicates, it's primarily about the Protestant Reformation, and I have not read it, so I'm not going to describe it more in detail than that. A large new release from Matthew Barrett, The Reformation as Renewal. Next up is a new release from Erdman's Publishing by Alan Kirk, who teaches at James Madison University. And this book is about the subject of sources for the Gospels. So, was Matthew written first? Was Mark written first? Is there a Q document? And what is its role in the Gospel formation and so forth? So if you're interested in a new release on that topic, you can consider this book by Alan Kirk. Did I say the title? Maybe I didn't. Jesus Tradition, Early Christian Memory, and Gospel Writing. The Long Search for the Authentic Source. Next up is the new release in the 40 Questions series, which is about Bible translation. A lot of you know that I really enjoy this series, and Mark Strauss is an excellent scholar to author a volume in this series, and this one's on Bible translation. I used to be really interested in Bible translation, and I still am, but not as much anymore. But this title really piqued my interest. There are 6 parts in this book, different questions that are being answered. Part 3 is called Challenges for Translators. Looks like there's about 10 different chapters or so. About 15 different chapters in that subject. The next one, the history of the English Bible. There's 7 different questions there. Part 5 is contemporary English versions. There's about 6 chapters there. So it's just, the chapters are short and sweet, but there's a lot of substance to them. And I really like the format, and I really like the series. So I'm a fan of the 40 questions about Bible translation. Next up is The Minor Prophets, a Theological Introduction by Craig Bartholomew and Heath A. Thomas, and this is from IVP. This is a new release. I just got this a couple days ago, so I'm pretty sure it's out. If it's not out now, it'll probably be out in just the next couple of weeks. So Craig Bartholomew and Heath Thomas are both well-reviewed authors. Both have written commentaries and biblical studies materials. This book is mostly organized according to Book of the Bible, as in the Minor Prophets, but there's some topical sections as well from Hosea and Habakkuk, and then there's a few other ones as well. So for your consideration, The Minor Prophets, a Theological Introduction. Next up is the new release from Richard Bauckham, who might be a familiar name to some of you if you read Jesus and the Eyewitnesses, or you know of his commentary on 2 Peter and Jude in the Word Biblical Commentary series. That's very well reviewed. This is volume 1 of, if I remember correctly, it's going to be a 2-volume series on early Jewish literature in relation to Christ. So this one's called Son of Man. I think the second volume is called Son of God, I think. And so it's not introductory, I wouldn't say. Baukham's book, Jesus and the Eyewitnesses, did find an audience among lay people, which is great, but most of his books have not. And so this isn't introductory. I would say it's a little bit more mid-level, but if someone's really interested in the subject matter, it'd probably just take you a little longer to work through the material, but you could do it. So for your consideration, Son of Man by Richard Bauckham. Next up is the 2-volume set from Zondervan Academic by Colin Brown with Craig A. Evans. It's called A History of the Quests for the Historical Jesus. The subtitle of Volume 1 is From the Beginning of Christianity to the End of World War II, and the subtitle of Volume 2 is From the Post-War Era Through Contemporary Debates. So this set is a little bit more spendy because it's 2-volume hardback. But the layout is very, very nice. The font size is not too small. So And as you notice that this second volume covers the last, whatever it is, 70 or 80 years. And then volume 1 covers everything up to that, everything up to World War II. So it's more recent history is the bulk of the project in this second volume. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And feel free to leave a comment or ask a question if you wish.